The 73rd session of the World Health Assembly convenes online amid coronavirus pandemic. Algeria welcomes Chinese medical experts. And South African trade unions express concerns about unlawful dismissals in the mining sector. Hello, welcome to Telesur. I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. The 73rd World Health Assembly begins today, with world leaders convening virtually for the first time due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, gave statements on the situation in her country and in the region.
Our CARICOM heads of government adopted a whole-of-government and a whole-of-society approach. In addition, we reached to our Caribbean neighbor Cuba and received hundreds of doctors and nurses to help us. I take this opportunity to thank our brothers and sisters in Cuba and the government of the Republic of Cuba in particular for its unswerving assistance during this pandemic. It has been palpable and clear to all of our population. So, our CARICOM family banded together to lock down and ride out this first wave. And it has been a long and treacherous wave. The closing of our borders and the trebling of unemployment and the reduction of our government revenues by half have created grave challenges for many of us. Similarly, the psyche of people in our hemisphere has been disturbed. For the majority of persons under the age of 70 in the Caribbean, many of whom have never had to confront grave challenges, the world appears to be on autopilot. They wonder who is in control and where is the leadership? Where is the global cooperation that they so expected? And for too many of our citizens globally, life has become a game of roulette, betting on numbers and colors and ignoring the science that needs to underpin our actions.
And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said Africa is extremely vulnerable to COVID-19 and that it is the poor worldwide who suffer the most. He said all nations must have equal access to medical technologies and stressed the importance of international solidarity.
South Africa is participating in several research initiatives. We must ensure that there is equitable access to medical equipment, technologies in all respects. In this final decade towards the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, we must press ahead with our goal of making universal health care a reality for all the people of the world, and no one must be left behind. The virus has demonstrated the essential value of universal health coverage, and this is where we need full solidarity.
The Director General of the World Health Organization defended the body's response to the novel coronavirus. He said the world does not lack the resources to make it safer from pandemics, but needs to use the tools in its possession. He called on nations to ensure that a similar crisis is not repeated.
I'm calling on all nations to resolve that they will do everything it takes to ensure that the 2020 coronavirus pandemic is never repeated. I'm calling on all nations to invest in strengthening and implementing the many tools at our disposal, especially the global treaty that underpins global health security, the international health regulations. To be successful, we must all commit to mutual ownership and accountability.
In other news, protesters in the city of El Alto on Sunday night blocked the main highway to demand food and democratic elections in Bolivia. The protesters were demanding that the de facto government steps down and allow the country to hold elections immediately. They have accused it of failing to address the social and economic challenges the people are facing due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Similar protests took place in North Potosí and Yapacaní.
We want to tell the president that they're killing us with hunger. We no longer have anything to eat. Yes or no, compañeros? For that reason, we want this quarantine to be lifted immediately. and we demand the resignation of Murillo and others, those who authored the coup. What we want is immediate elections. We, El Auto, are self-convoked. We are not being obligated to be here by any neighborhood association or anyone. We ourselves, because we are hungry, have decided to come out. That's why we are here. El Auto on its feet, never on its knees.
We demand that the Supreme Electoral Court put forward an electoral calendar respecting the political constitution of the plurinational state of Bolivia, which according to the law must be held within 90 days. If this is not respected, we will be obliged to mobilize throughout the country, which will be announced under a new declaration. We are giving notice to all municipal, departmental, and national authorities that we are giving a deadline of 72 hours in which this must be fulfilled.
Cuba's Director of Epidemiology, Francisco Duran, on Sunday reported that the island has gone 4 days without new deaths due to COVID-19.
With great satisfaction, I can announce we've gone 4 days without new deaths. While the risk still exists, if an effort is made, we can save the lives of patients who are infected with COVID-19 in our country. We have 10 more positive results from our testing, which amounts to a 0.5% of the 2,083 tests given on Saturday. This is also the lowest percentage of infection so far. In total, we have tested 81,917 samples and diagnosed 1,872 positive cases.
We have more stories coming up. Don't go away. Welcome back. Dominica's Prime Minister has announced that all those who contracted the novel coronavirus on the island have fully recovered with no deaths. He said the virus remains prevalent and preventive measures must be maintained.
We have no active COVID-19 cases. All of our 16 confirmed cases have successfully recovered, meaning none died through COVID-19. But now is not the time to let our guard down. I know that the measures that we have had to take to secure the health and well-being of all persons in Dominica have restricted your freedoms. But this has been done for the protection of all of us. We must not become complacent and forget that this disease is extremely contagious and has claimed the lives of more than 300,000 people worldwide in a space of a few months.
Jamaica has 3 new imported COVID-19 cases after 320 samples were tested in the past 24 hours. This comes after a group of nationals was repatriated from the United States. To date, the Caribbean island has registered 520 positives. 127 people have recovered and 9 have died. Meanwhile, a few measures implemented to halt the virus have been eased, including the reopening of bars and churches. Amid threats of sanctions from the United States and international concern over a political deadlock, Guyana's Prime Minister says he will accept the ruling of the Elections Commission after the recount of the ballots cast on the March 2nd polls.
Whatever declaration is made by the chairman of the Election Commission would be regarded as legitimate by the coalition government.
Trinidad and Tobago's Public Utilities Minister Robert Lehunt has stepped down. The ex-minister said he resigned due to professional conflict on policy positions. The Prime Minister accepted the resignation on Saturday. Lehunt was appointed a government senator and minister in 2017, weeks after his initial appointment was revoked. This after it was discovered he had dual citizenship in Ghana, where he previously worked as a banker. China has sent a team of medical experts to Algeria as the country continues to assist efforts to combat the COVID-19 pandemic in Africa. The team was invited by the Algerian government to help the country effectively contain the pandemic. 20 members of the team are said to be deployed in the country's 4 provinces. This is not the first such cooperation, as China has been sending medical doctors to the North African country since 1963.
The crisis unit was set up on February 22nd. About 40 experts have been working 24 hours per day since then to help combat the COVID-19. Each of the experts on duty will be in charge of monitoring 4 or 5 provinces.
Because this is not like short-term emergency, it's kind of protracted. It's become long-term. We need to change our strategy from short-term to long-term.
Ivory Coast government lifted the ban on church gatherings on Sunday, a few days after easing some of the measures to stop the pandemic. Churches have been allowed to open, but under strict safety measures. More COVID-19 related restrictions are set to be lifted next week. The government said schools will reopen on May 25th, but that the country's borders remain closed until the end of the month. The West African country has confirmed nearly 2,000 coronavirus cases and 24 deaths.
Now that the opportunity has been given to us, we are scrupulously observing the instructions, and we have made an arrangement to stay within the framework of safety.
It's a moment we've been looking forward to, so let's give glory to God for that moment. It was beautiful, and really a lot of peace and joy to resume this Mass, to meet the other parishioners again, to see our priests at work.
Tanzania's President John Magufuli says his government will begin easing coronavirus restrictions next week, following a drop in the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases. President Magufuli said following the decrease in cases, the government is considering reopening schools and sports activities soon. The country currently has about 500 confirmed cases and almost 180 people have recovered, while 21 patients have died.
The number of patients suffering from the coronavirus in our country has drastically dropped. For example, hospitals like Amana, which had 198 COVID-19 patients, dropped to just 12 patients today. Mulongazila had 30, but they are now 6. With this trend, if the current situation continues through next week, I'm planning to reopen our universities so that our children can go back to school. But also our sports events will resume, since sports is a big part of our lives.
South Africa's Ministry of Health said the number of coronavirus cases in the country has surged past 15,000. This is after 1,160 cases were detected on Sunday, the highest daily number of new infections in more than 2 months. The ministry also announced 3 new deaths, raising the death toll to 264. South Africa's Association of Mining and Construction Workers Union has called on the government to enforce strict regulations to protect workers from unnecessary layoffs. The union said it is regrettable that a number of mining companies are using the COVID-19 pandemic as an excuse to dismiss employees without following the country's labor laws. A giant statue of Burkina Faso's revolutionary icon Thomas Sankara has been reinstalled in the capital Ouagadougou, after modifications were to improve its likeness to the former president who was assassinated in 1987. The statue was taken down just 1 day after it was originally unveiled in March 2019 amid criticism of its lack of resemblance to Sankara. Sankara, an icon for many young Africans in the 1980s, came to power in 1983 and adopted left-wing policies and endeavored to reduce government corruption.
The first time I was indeed shocked to see the image because it didn't look like him at all. In any case, this time round the image is right. Every human creation is imperfect, and we believe that with all the activity there has been around the personality of Thomas Sankara, when the memorial is complete, we will have a true portrait of him.
The governor of Somalia's third largest city and 5 other officials were killed on Sunday in an attack by a suspected Al-Shabaab member. The attacker rammed a scooter taxi into a car carrying Ahmed Mus Nur, the governor of Mudug province, and his security staff before detonating an explosive device. Police officials say an investigation was launched into the attack and promised to bring justice. 2 months ago, the governor of the neighboring province of Puntland was killed in a similar attack.
Those killed in the blast include the governor of Gaokayo, along with 5 other government officials. And also, we have people injured. The blast is a huge loss for us. We swear in the name of Allah that those who were behind the attack will not sleep in Gaokayo town peacefully, not stay in it, and we will prevent them doing anything else they are now thinking about.
A rocket attack on a building housing refugees in the Libyan capital Tripoli has killed 7 people, including a 5-year-old boy. The attack on the facility in the city's Furnash district late Saturday also wounded at least 17 people. It was the latest attack on civilians in the fighting between forces loyal to General Khalifa Haftar and the UN-supporter government of National Accord. Haftar's forces in April 2019 launched an offensive to control Tripoli from the GNA. We're taking one last break. Stay with us. Welcome back. 7 intelligence officers have been killed by a car bomb in Afghanistan's eastern province of Ghazni. The Taliban militia have claimed responsibility for the attack on the intelligence agency post. The bombing comes a day after President Ashraf Ghani and his rival Abdullah had signed a new power-sharing accord in Kabul, expected to end months of fighting. Iran's foreign ministry has warned the U.S. government of repercussions if it intercepted Iranian fuel shipments destined for Venezuela. The ministry said plans by the United States to block the shipment amounts to piracy and a threat to legal international trade. It added that these are sovereign nations that have the right to trade with each other. U.S. officials have threatened to intercept 5 Iranian ships that are currently on their way to Venezuela. A heat wave hit large parts of Greece on Saturday, with peak temperature reaching 40 degrees Celsius. Meteorologists said the high temperatures will persist on Sunday, along with dust storms. The hot air inched the temperature 10 degrees higher than usual during this time of the year. As of the heat drove more people to the beach, the Greek government maintained social distancing rules to prevent the spread of COVID-19. They limited the number of people allowed per beach and requested parasols to be placed at a distance of 4 meters. Spanish authorities announced on Sunday the country had recorded fewer than 100 daily coronavirus deaths for the first time since declaring a state of emergency. Authorities confirmed 87 more people had died from the virus, the lowest daily death toll since March 16th.
Today on the national front it will be quick because we are having a similar evolution, same as we have been observing these days, with 421 new cases or less than the previous days. Furthermore, we have a very low number of deceased, below 100, 87 deceased. For the first time in a very long time, we reach below 100. In this case, the weekend effect is harder to be observed, but it is possible that there is some delay in numbers and we need to assess it in coming days. But undoubtedly, with this fluctuation of sporadic peaks that we have been observing, the evolution of the seed have been progressively decreasing, and for the first time we are below 100. And this is good news, even if it is always hard to speak about death from this disease.
Health authorities in the United Kingdom have announced 170 deaths in the last 24 hours, pushing the country's COVID-19 death toll to over 34,000.
34,636 have now died. That's an increase of 170 fatalities since yesterday. Throughout the period of lockdown, which started on March the 23rd, we have been at level 4. Thanks to you, people across the country, we have collectively helped to bring the R level down. And we are now in a position to begin moving to level 3 in careful steps.
Norway has celebrated its Constitution Day amid the coronavirus pandemic. The National Day was celebrated under social distancing measures due to COVID-19, and most people stayed at home. On May 17, 1814, a new constitution was signed in Norway, an event which saw the country become an independent state.
This day has been fantastic for us. It has been so great. The whole celebration, the residents at the nursing home, and the employees. We have had a good 17 May celebration, despite the special time we are in.
In the United States, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio has made a call for the reinforcement of restrictions to halt the spread of COVID-19.
Number of cases continues to grow, 137 confirmed now. 66 of those cases, there's a positive test for COVID-19 or antibodies detected.
And with that, we end our news brief. But you can find these and more stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. And be sure to also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Until next time.